Hey everyone, this is Preeti from the Krya team, and in today's video we're going to be talking about dandruff. Now dandruff is one of the most common hair care concerns that we receive at Krya, and we get a huge host of questions around it. The first being, why is my dandruff so persistent, right? Why is it continuing to plague me despite the number of medicated shampoos that I've tried? What does Ayurveda say is the reason or the cause behind dandruff? And are there any suggestions from Ayurveda in terms of diet and lifestyle that can help me heal my dandruff? So we're going to be exploring all of this today in today's video. So the first thing to understand when it comes to dandruff is that there are two kinds of dandruff: dry dandruff and oily dandruff. Now, most often, about 60 or 70% of the cases of dandruff that we receive fall in the category of dry dandruff, and the cause for dry dandruff is completely different from oily dandruff. Now, dry dandruff occurs when the scalp is dry, and this happens when you overwash your scalp and do not give it enough regular nourishment in the form of an Ayurvedic hair oil. So, overwashing leads to dryness of scalp, and the scalp starts to shed in the form of small white powdery flakes, right? So this is the sign of dry dandruff. Your flakes are small, white and powdery, and you overwash your hair, and if you look at your regimen, you're probably not oiling your hair at all, or oiling it like once a month or hardly ever. So to treat this kind of dry dandruff, we simply require a regimen overhaul. We substitute or we switch, the importance given to washing our hair and introduce regular hair oiling instead with a good Ayurvedic hair oil. So if you're washing your hair every day or every other day, we suggest reducing it to once or twice a week. This is the Ayurvedic recommendation for the number of times that you should be washing your hair anyway. And we also suggest adding in regular hair oiling, regular leave-on hair oiling with a good Ayurvedic hair oil. When I say regular, I mean at least 3 to 4 times a week. Do remember that regular hair oiling is actually part of Ayurvedic Dinacharya, and it comes with a huge host of other benefits like helping calm your brain, helping nourish your eyes, and improving the quality of hair and improving hair growth. So when you start doing regular hair oiling and reduce washing your hair, you will find that the scalp is much more nourished, and the small white dry powdery flaking that you're seeing will automatically go down. As the very cause of dry dandruff is overwashing the hair and not giving it regular nourishment, using a medicated anti-dandruff shampoo for this kind of dandruff can actually aggravate the situation. What you need to do is reduce the frequency of washing, substitute your synthetic shampoo with an Ayurvedic hair wash churnam, and start oiling your hair more. By more, again I repeat, it means oiling your hair at least 3 to 4 times a week with a good Ayurvedic hair oil. When this is done, there is a gradual decrease in this kind of dry dandruff. The second kind of dandruff is called oily dandruff. Now here we see flaking, which is much larger in size compared to dry dandruff. The flakes are large, oily and sticky or clumpy, and they are not white in color, they tend to be creamy or yellow in color. Now here, about 30% of people who come to us and 30% of people in general suffer from this kind of dandruff. In dermatology, this kind of oily dandruff is often linked to a fungal microorganism, and it is called seborrheic dermatitis in the more severe cases. Now in Ayurveda, this kind of dandruff is called Dharmyaka, and the acharyas tell us that this has to do with a definite vitiation of kapha and vata dosha. Now the Western approach to this kind of dandruff is to actually focus on eradicating the fungal microorganisms on the scalp. But the Ayurvedic approach differs slightly. It's not that the acharyas do not talk about these microorganisms. They do mention that this could be an aggravated factor in this kind of dandruff, but they focus more on the hetu or the breeding grounds for attracting these microorganisms. So what the acharyas tell us is that it is the kapha vitiation on the scalp which leads to the sweet oily secretions on the scalp, which then attracts these microorganisms. The kapha vitiations also lead to thickening and clumping of the dandruff flakes that we see. So they focus. So the treatment plan in this kind of dandruff in Ayurveda is to focus on reducing this vitiation of kapha. Now when you reduce this kapha vitiation, you bring down the itchiness that is very common in this fungal dandruff. You cut down the thickness of the flakes that you see, and you also remove the circumstances which attracted the microorganisms to the scalp in the first place. As the origin of this kind of dandruff is identified in Ayurveda as primarily a kapha vata vitiation, all the treatment in this to help heal this kind of dandruff focuses on reducing this vitiation. And this is done through the external hair products that we apply, from the hair wash or the hair churnams, the hair lepa or the hair mask, and the hair oil. And it also extends to the diet and lifestyle suggestions that are given to us to help balance this kapha vitiation. The very nature of kapha is it is madhura or sweet in its taste, and it is nourishing or brahmanya in its aspect. So when we try and treat a kapha vitiation, which is kapha gone wrong in the case of oily dandruff, we look at herbs which have the opposite properties. So we look at herbs which are bitter and astringent in their nature, which is the opposite of being sweet and nourishing. So using such bitter and astringent herbs will help cut down the sweetness and the oiliness of kapha dosha, the secretions on the scalp, and also bring down the scalp thickening and the clumpiness that we see in the scalp. Now, just like in dry dandruff, it was so important to regularly oil your hair with the right Ayurvedic hair oil. In oily or fungal dandruff, it's very, very important to cleanse your hair correctly and also use the right Ayurvedic lepa or hair mask periodically. Now, when we use this along with the right Ayurvedic hair oil that is made up of these bitter astringent herbs that I had mentioned, then you have a gradual improvement in the condition of the scalp, and you have a gradual decrease in the kapha vitiation. And this has to be done across formats. It has to be done right from the way you wash your hair, to the kind of mask you use, to the kind of oil that you use to give balanced nourishment to the scalp. Now, because we are dealing with a kapha vitiation in this case, using the normal coconut oil based hair oils will actually be very detrimental to this condition, because you do not want to use any substance which is nourishing, which actually further aggravates the kapha vitiation and provides a bigger breeding ground for the microorganisms that are already feasting on the scalp. One of the common questions that we get when it comes to oily and fungal dandruff is, why is it so persistent? Despite using medicated anti-dandruff shampoos, why is it that that solution is not long lasting, and why does the dandruff keep recurring? Well, the answer to that, at least from an Ayurvedic perspective, is this: that Ayurveda tells us that the key to this kind of dandruff is the kapha imbalance. It is the kapha imbalance which attracts the microorganisms to your scalp in the first place. So what the anti-dandruff medicated shampoos are doing is simply removing these microorganisms, but they are not actually tackling the basic fundamental nature of the scalp, which is the kapha imbalance. So every time the kapha imbalance has not been treated, so it keeps on in a recurring way producing these sweet oily substances which will attract the next generation of microorganisms to the scalp. So you will find that you will get temporary relief, and then after some time the dandruff starts. So you use the medicated shampoo again, you get temporary relief, and then the problem starts again. That's because the basic fundamental issue of kapha vitiation has not been tackled. So Ayurveda tells us that every morsel of food that we eat or every drop of liquid that we drink goes on to build the cells in our body. So Ahara or diet is extremely critical in creating the right conducive conditions for good health, good skin and good hair. So in the case of kapha, when we eat a diet which is very, very rich in kapha aggravating substances, or we drink liquids which are very, very kapha promoting, then we end up aggravating and we end up creating the conditions for fungal dandruff. So for example, one of the hetus or one of the reasons behind dandruff in the Ayurvedic text is mentioned as drinking unboiled or cold water. Now even water has its own properties. Unboiled water tends to be heavy and sweet and over-nourishing in nature. When we take the trouble to boil water and drink lukewarm water, then we help balance kapha internally. In oily dandruff, it's very, very important to take care of keeping the kapha portion of our diet under balance. So we must take care to avoid eating too many sweets, fried food, oily foods, and foods that are very heavy in nature, it's also very important to look at how well we are digesting the food that we eat. For example, we're supposed to be eating a very light meal around dinner because our digestive fire is pretty low. So if we overload our system at that time and always have a heavy dinner, then this will definitely result in kapha vitiation. Some of the lifestyle practices that aggravate kapha is leading a very sedentary life, not exercising enough, taking afternoon naps, and sleeping much longer than is required, and waking up late in the morning. So all of these sedentary practices aggravate kapha, and they will be causative factors for oily dandruff. So how do you get a lasting solution to your dandruff? The first thing is to understand what kind of dandruff you have and then treat it accordingly. So if you have dry dandruff, don't use a medicated shampoo and overwash it. Find a good Ayurvedic hair oil and introduce Ayurvedic hair oil into your regimen. And if you have fungal dandruff, work on kapha vitiation. Use a properly formulated Ayurvedic hair wash, hair mask, and the right Ayurvedic hair oil, and work on gently removing or reducing the kapha imbalance in the scalp. At Krya, we have a wide range of properly formulated, correctly manufactured Ayurvedic hair oils that will suit you if you have dry dandruff. For the fungal dandruff, we have a very effective and extremely popular range of anti-dandruff products. This comprises of an anti-dandruff hair wash, an anti-dandruff hair mask, and an anti-dandruff Ayurvedic hair oil. All of these have been formulated according to the principles that I've described in this video, using the right kind of herbs that help cut down kapha vitiation and help gently balance and bring the scalp back to a harmonious existence. I hope you found this video on dandruff and the Ayurvedic approach to dandruff interesting. If you like the content that we put out on our channel, please do consider subscribing to our channel, and do consider forwarding this to a friend or a family member who you think might find this interesting. Thank you so much for watching.